I want to let you in on a little conversation I had with Doug Hewson. We broke down the basics of things that you need to know when you're designing your YouTube banner. Well, Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Doug Hewson. I have a channel called Doug Hewson YT. The YT means that I talk about all things YouTube, particularly YouTube news and new features, how the features work, YouTube policies. Amongst all that is learning every aspect of the YouTube studio, how to do channel banners, for example, which is what we're talking about today, how to upload a video, all that sort of thing. I cover that on my channel.
Doug's really, really good about bringing the breaking news. Like recently, I think there was news about something about communities coming to YouTube.
That's
And
right.
so he may have even been one of the first to break that there's no more clickable links in the banners.
Yeah, that was a little while ago. I think it was like a year or so back. Time flies on YouTube.
Time does fly. Because today we're talking about banners, I thought it would be great to bring Doug on because he knows a little something about YouTube banners, considering he's had a few YouTube channels over the years and have created a lot of YouTube banners, aka channel art. What exactly is channel art?
Well, the channel art, and I also said before, channel banner, you can use those terms interchangeably, is basically the artwork that appears at the top of your channel if someone's looking at your channel, whether it's on mobile phone, whether it's on desktop, if they're watching your channel on TV and go to your channel page. It is the artwork that displays at the top that tells who you are and what your channel's about.
This was not a question that's in our preset of questions, but I'm curious, how often do you change your channel banner?
That's a very good question. I try and change it. I think I would average maybe once a year. Sometimes I might come in and do a change if it's necessary. But now that I've got it dialed in, I don't change it as often as I used to when I was, a younger YouTuber and the artwork wasn't as good as what I've got now.
Yeah, I try to change mine out at least once a year,
Mm.
mainly to update the logo on there. Last year in 2024, I had the 2024 Canvassador logo. This year, have the 2025 Canvassador logo. That will change depending on the year. One question I've gotten a lot of is, how can I use my banner to attract new viewers and subscribers?
The best way to use your channel banner or your channel art is to communicate what your channel is all about. And so that will come down to, you're going to have your channel name on there somewhere so people know they're in the right place. Secondly, you're going to want to communicate some sort of mission statement or value proposition on your channel banner that might say succinctly what your channel is about. Like, I don't even know what my current one is, but it's very short. It's like, I do this, this, and this. And it's like a one sentence, very short. It's not your blurb about your channel and your history and many paragraphs. It's just a succinct one sentence line that sort of nails what your channel is about. So if somebody reads that, they instantly understand. The other thing, have imagery that actually complements that value proposition and what your channel's about as well.
This year, I think it says Canva for YouTube and creator strategies, because I merged them together. So hopefully that will encourage them. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm looking for creator strategies. I'm looking for how to use Canva for my YouTube channel. Hey, I might want to subscribe.
Absolutely. If it's something that's attractive and it's very clear, then it's more likely that people are going to stick around. And if they get hooked on your content, then they're more likely to come back for more and also to subscribe, like you said.
How can I make my banner look more professional and stand out?
That's a really good question. I think that's something that especially new creators or creators haven't been doing YouTube as long, and they may not have like the skills to actually figure out how to put the artwork together. They don't have like the graphic design skills or anything like that. So there's a couple of things you can do, and I think firstly is finding the decent software. And I know we're going to talk more about that. Whatever the tool is that we build our channel art with, we're gonna talk about that software and the tools in a minute. Other things that you can do to make it look professional is to actually download just like a channel banner template. There are many online. What you can do is download that and bring that into whatever software you're using. They're like guides to show you where you should be putting things on the channel art, because when you're using channel art, it has to cater for all places: desktop,
Yes.
mobile, television. Everything has a purpose on that channel banner. then you want to make sure you account for that. I think that's one way to make it look professional. If it looks good on like desktop and then everything cuts off on mobile, that's not professional. That's not presenting your channel in the best light possible. So be considerate of where everything should be laid out. And I would say also just think about what colors work together, what colors don't work together. And sometimes that's trial and error, and sometimes that's doing a bit of research and a bit of study.
I like to use one color, like, let's say red.
Yeah.
And then I like to use a lighter color and a darker color.
The other thing to keep in mind is what fonts you use. Some
Mhm.
fonts come across professional because they're nice and straight and streamlined. Maybe have the right thickness to the font. You get fonts that are really thin. You get fonts that may be too thick. You want to find something in between that's very clear to read, that doesn't have any bits that stick out and make it look like it's somebody's handwriting, or somebody's your young child has written on it with a crayon or something like that. You don't want it to look like that, unless of course it's a kids
Unless,
channel.
yeah, if it fits your channel's
That's
theme,
right.
then that might work. What's your favorite font to use?
I alternate for a lot of fonts. I'm using, I think ones I like at the moment is Anton. I
I
know
love that.
I know that's available in Canva and a lot of computer systems. I have it because it looks good. So that's probably my go-to at the moment. There's probably others, maybe Roboto or something like that. If you just want something really basic,
Anton's my pick for like YouTube thumbnails. That's
yeah,
my go-to
very
font.
good.
I also really like for banners Montserrat,
Mm,
especially if you like in Canva, you can click the down arrow and choose different thicknesses of Montserrat. So I think they
yeah,
even have a black, which just really makes it stand out. I did do a video about 10 different fonts that you can use on thumbnails, and I think those fonts would work really great on YouTube banners as well. We talked about color, fonts. Anything else to add about how to make your banner professional?
Probably the only other thing I'd touch on would be careful what images you use. Aside from like all the maybe a copyright issues, but this like does the image look professional? If you happen to have a photo that you're going to pull in and it has some sort of background, remove the background. There's tools out there, free tools. Canva does it, and other tools do it. It's so easy to do. You can do it on your phone these days. Remove the background, make sure that looks professional. Maybe throw a bit of drop shadow or something on that to make it pop out from the actual background of the channel banner itself.
That's very true.
Mm,
Now, Canva's background remover is one of the paid features, but it's
mm.
actually one that I use a whole lot. There are
Yes.
some free background
Yeah.
removers within Canva under the apps. I've done a review of them. One of them actually really surprised me. So if you are on a budget, one of those might work
Yes.
really well for you. I'll link that one to this video as well. You mentioned there are different softwares and tools that we can use.
That's right.
Obviously, I use Canva to make my banners, and I know that you use Canva to make your banners.
Absolutely.
There are other tools, though.
There are.
Can either one of us think of other tools?
Obviously, if you talk to a professional, they're going to say, "Oh, you use Adobe Photoshop." Obviously, that's going to cost you money because it's software you got to download. Canva, you can do it like free on Canva, or if you have to pay Canva, it doesn't matter. Maybe a free option would be something like Photopea, which is online, sort of like a really stripped back version of Photoshop. There's also GIMP, which it's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can download it, Mac, Windows, whatever you happen to be using. It's a little like Photoshop as well, so you got to have a bit of a learning curve again. But if you want to use tools that are similar to Canvas, something like Adobe Express. Some people even do their channel banners in presentation software. Like I don't recommend it because you do have limitations that you can like bring in and even remove backgrounds and some of these things like Keynote and PowerPoint, for example. I'm assuming you could probably do something in Google Slides. I haven't tried it. We could list off all day. I've talked to people who for fun have done it in Microsoft Paint, which I wouldn't recommend either. But hey, if that's what you got.
So I went to my desktop to look because I knew I had a software on my computer and I couldn't remember the name of it, but the Affinity Suite,
Oh
like
yes.
Affinity Photo, which Affinity is owned by Canva now, but
Mm,
it's another option. But I will say the learning curve is very steep. I spent 30
Yes.
days trying to learn Affinity. If I went in today, I probably wouldn't know what to do.
I think there's another one that Apple just bought that was one of those sort of ones out there like Affinity. There was I just can't remember the name of it.
Another question that people have asked me a lot is how important is it that banners have consistent branding with the thumbnails you produce?
If you can have some sort of artistic recognition, really, you're probably bringing imagery from your channel banner into your thumbnails, maybe using the same fonts. Obviously, if you're doing thumbnails where you're a presenter, then you're going to include your own likeness in some fashion, whether it's a photo you've taken. It may not be your profile picture or a picture that you may use for your channel art. As long as it's you, that's part of your branding. You're like, and I think some of the coloring as well. So the colors, say you have like for me, I have a blue theme, as you can tell with my background and my mic. But it goes across my channel banner. In the past, has gone across my thumbnails a lot as well. Thumbnails have a different sort of technical mindset as to gaining attention, winning the click. Sometimes you want to change those up, but if you can keep some elements of recognition, then that will sort of link up with what you're doing on your main channel page.
That's very true. I do have my image on my banner and I've got my image on my thumbnails. I think that my font in my banner is different than my font in my thumbnails, but that was a strategic choice. They kind of sort of can stand on their own.
That's right. But I think certainly if you're looking at just channel art and your profile picture, that it's also representative of you across YouTube, whether you're like commenting on a video or something like that. I think if that has a tie-in with your channel art, I think that's a lot more important as well. Often if we're a personality, that's going to be the likeness is often our face that's on there, maybe the same colors.
Because my Canvassador logo makes the image smaller, I'm like, I'm not going to make that my YouTube profile because people aren't going to be able to see what that is at that size. I made a purposeful decision just to have a picture of me with a different color background that's sort of purpley, and then use my Canvassador logo on my banner, but then my banner sort of has like a purpley hue. I tied them together even though it's not the same.
But I think that's a good way to go because the profile picture is so small. If you do have any text on that, it's going to be very hard to read. So I think that's definitely the right call though.
There are some frequently asked questions that we have not talked about at all. And to be honest, we're not going to talk about them. And those are questions like, how do I size my YouTube banner? You sort of talked about this a little bit earlier about getting it right for desktop and mobile and TV. And the reason why I'm not talking about that in this video is because recently I did a dedicated video about that. I think something else that we're not going to talk about today is how to upload a banner, because I recently did a dedicated video about that. So if those are things that you're struggling with, leave a comment. I will send you a link to those specific problem points that you probably have. We're rolling. We're killing this, Doug. What do you think are 3 things that you absolutely must put on your YouTube banner?
Your channel name. People need to know what channel are they on. Sure, they can read it below there somewhere because it's in text. So you don't necessarily have to make it like plastered, like in big lights, like a billboard. But you should have it on there somewhere. I think this other thing you need to do is have that value proposition or mission statement that I talked about, that single line that lets people know what your channel's about, so that they're not wondering what's going on. On the channel, are they in the right place? Is it the content that they're looking for? If you say nothing and you have a picture of a horse, but you're not a horse channel, you're a computer channel because you're talking about how to fix laptops or something, and you have a picture of a horse on your art, that imagery isn't congruent. So that's the third thing, is have imagery that is congruent with your what your channel's about. If you're doing space content, use space imagery, use stars and or the moon and sun. You don't really have to use a lot of imagery, but if you do use imagery, make sure it's congruent.
I think it's funny that you said channel name, because earlier when we did a collaboration, you said channel name shouldn't be on your banner.
Did I? And this is the mistake that a lot of people make, is they blow up their channel name. It's the biggest thing on the channel banner.
That's the fun thing about YouTube banners, is that what was once popular and very common best practice can change, because it used to be very popular for people to put their social media stuff on their banner, fill it up with all of their social media platforms.
Yeah.
That's no longer best practice.
Yeah.
It might be in 10 years, but right now it's not.
Yeah.
It used to be best practice to put a subscribe button icon on your banner. That's out.
Definitely, definitely. Like YouTube used to have some clickable things on the channel banner on desktop. No other places, not on TV, not on mobile. Back then, desktop was the main place people were watching. So if they're on your channel page, there was an opportunity to have your links to social medias or your website, or even a subscribe link, as you say. If you put it in the right place in the banner, you could have lined all that up so that people could click on it and more or less get to where they want to go. But they removed that and put that down into the about page. So if you want to see
Which
people's socials now, they're down there.
that's in a different location than it used to be too.
YouTube's constantly changing. So if you watch a video from 5 years ago telling you how to do something, it may not be in that place anymore. So that's why we have to keep making videos on how to upload a certain thing in a certain way, because they change the upload flow. Or one time you could only upload one single thumbnail, but you can upload 3 thumbnails to do a thumbnail test now. Different things like that, where something didn't happen before or happened differently, and then YouTube changes things, updates, and so you have to sort of relearn the process. But as you said, we've got some nuance from year to year, where maybe I didn't recommend having it channel name as a priority on your banner.
I'm interested to know what your full channel banner looks like,
Yeah,
because I know where it's cropped, and I'm interested to know whether you're floating in midair,
I am.
because that's a personal design preference. I don't like when people are just floating in midair.
But there's like definitely a line there, like I'm within a box or something.
We're going to end this by giving one piece of advice each about YouTube banners. But before we do that, if there's a question that we did not answer, leave it in the comments below, because you might be surprised. Doug or myself might answer you personally. What is your one piece of advice for creators that are making YouTube banners for the first time?
My advice is to keep it simple. Don't try to overdo it. Don't try to add too much. When you add stuff and you start to think that's a little bit cluttered, maybe just pull some things off it again to bring it back, so that it just hits the basic points. It looks clean and doesn't look cluttered, because clutter is the worst for whether it's channel art, thumbnails. It just looks the worst. So keep it simple.
My one piece of advice is to watch this playlist, because you're going to learn how to upload, you're going to learn how to size a YouTube banner, and you're even going to learn how to design a YouTube banner. I might even throw one of Doug's recent banner videos right in that playlist.